about Leopold's Book Bar Cafe. It's Madison's bookstore for night owls, open till midnight every night. They've got lunch now, and starting next month, dinner next door at their sister restaurant, Fabiola's Spaghetti House and Deli. Leopold's is also perfect for holiday gifts, by the way, with over 5,000 books and hundreds of wines. Head over to Greenbush and stop in at Leopold's. Today on CityCast Madison. It would not be a proper Madison New Year if we didn't take a moment to appreciate our Madison area dairy. International award-winning dairy, mind you. We're revisiting our conversation with one of the co-owners of Landmark Creamery, Anna Thomas Bates, who founded the cheesemaking sensation with Anna Landmark. Their secret? Creamy sheep milk. They also now make their own artisan butter at 7 Acre Dairy in Paoli. This show is a love letter to Wisconsin cheese. It's Thursday, December 28th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Bianca. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Right off the bat, can we ask you what your favorite cheese is? Is that fair?
It's not. It's like asking my favorite child. It's it's challenging because it all depends on the season and the event and who I'm with. So it's all very interactive, in my opinion. If you want to ask the cheese I eat the most often, that's a little different. So we have a cheese called Pecorino Nocciola. It's a firmer sheep milk cheese, and it's just super easy to love, super versatile. And I eat that one for lunch and bring it places, and it's a crowd pleaser. So that one I eat most often.
I love that. And I also literally just tried it, and it is indeed pleasing.
Wonderful. Yeah, it just has like notes of brown butter and macadamia nuts, and it's really delicious.
Yeah, it's one of your winners. I want to ask you more about that. Before we dive into all of your winning cheeses, I want to point out cheddar and mozzarella are what many people think of when you say cheese. But fun fact, here in Wisconsin, we make over 600 types of cheese. How does your creamery decide what types of cheese to make?
Sure, that's a great question. So Landmark Creamery, myself and my business partner, the other Anna, have been making cheese for about 10 years. And we started off a little bit different path than typical Wisconsin cheesemakers in that we focused on sheep milk. Sheep milk is very rich. It has twice the fat of cow or goat. It has more protein. It has a really sweet, nutty flavor. A lot of people aren't as familiar with it, although if you tell them that manchego is made from sheep milk, then they start to think, oh yeah, I have had sheep milk cheese before. Otherwise, some people make an assumption that it's going to taste just like goat cheese, which it does not. It has a very different flavor. So right from the beginning, we were looking at some famous European cheeses and kind of to be inspired by them. So the idea is to kind of take some of that old world tradition and some of those production values that have been making wonderful cheese for so long, but combining it with the milk and the terroir here in Wisconsin.
The terroir?
So it's similar to wine, where the animals are, what they're eating, the environment, how much moisture, all of that factors into the milk. And the milk is really what makes the cheese taste the way it does, along with what you do to the milk afterwards. But yeah, our very first cheese was inspired by a Basque-style cheese called Osso Orati, and our version is called Anabasque. And it's a sheep milk cheese that it has a washed rind. So when you do cheese, you have some cultures, you have salt, you have rennet, and you have the milk. Those are the only 4 ingredients. But from those ingredients, you can make thousands of different types of cheeses depending on the recipe, how you're making it, and also how you're aging it. And so when I say it's a washed rind cheese, I'm referring to how we age it. And we use the French word affinage for how we age things. And after we make those wheels of cheese, we are literally washing those wheels with a special brine that has cultures in it that keeps all the mold off and adds flavor and develops a certain kind of flavor and situation happening on the rind. So we do that for several weeks till we get it to where we like it, and then we let it dry down. And we're aging everything in small rooms on wooden boards, similar to how they've always aged cheese.
Can you share what that word means?
Affinage. So it's
Affinage.
Affinage. And yeah, it's the French word for aging cheese. So someone who would be doing it would be an affineur.
Oh mon Dieu. Okay, cool. Well, that's really beautiful. And I'm glad that you brought up the Anabasque because that was the first one we wanted to talk about. That cheese won the gold at the American Cheese Society Awards.
I think it's probably our most awarded cheese. So we're very proud of it, and it's done quite well in lots of different competitions. In fact, last year was the World Cheese Championship, and it got second. And world, when you're talking about wash-dried sheep milk cheese, there's a lot of competition. So we were extremely proud. I think the first place cheese was from Spain, so it was very exciting.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so that's our most awarded cheese, and it's also our most popular cheese nationally. So that's the one we send most frequently to California, New York, and off to the coasts.
But you were up against places like France and Italy. That's really tremendous.
The American Cheese Society is a competition that's really focused on artisan cheesemakers, so people who are really dedicated to their crafts, working with really lovely milk. And it's very competitive as well. And we're always pleased when we can win an award in that competition because it's makers from all across the country. Cheese competitions are really fun. They're kind of done like dog shows. There's all these different categories. So there's like 90 different categories, and they can be very specific to, a cheddar this age, to, a mozzarella, to 0 to 30 days, rindless, and then all the milk. So there's all these different categories. And then everyone competes. There's judges. There's a technical judge and an aesthetic judge. So one judge is looking for defects. The other judge is looking for features and qualities. And then you come up with a score out of 100. And then they rank people that way. And then they actually will take all the tops and they'll do a best in show.
Oh my gosh. I'm just wondering, how did you get into this?
So I was a project manager for years and years, but I also always had a really thriving interest in local food. And I'm a food writer. So I wrote a cooking column for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel for 10 years and, had a blog like everybody else and interviewed lots of small artisan food businesses and chefs. And I was actually at a potluck for women farmers where I met Anna Landmark, my business partner, and she was getting her cheesemaking license because here in Wisconsin, you get your cheesemaking license. You have to take courses. You have to do an apprenticeship. You have to take an exam. It's quite rigorous. And we found out we had kids in the same grade at school and we just hit it off and started talking. And as a writer, I had lots of questions about what she was going to do with her business and lots of thoughts. And we ended up just partnering up. It made sense to get together. We could grow faster. And, between the two of us, we have 5 kids. So we're busy. So we're able to split some duties. So she does the production operations. I do, admin, sales, marketing. We both come up with cheeses and we're small enough that we both do a lot of everything.
You may have noticed that CityCast ads don't sound like other podcast ads. That's because we're not just reciting national ad scripts, we're using our own words to talk about local businesses we know and care about. Like that one we did about Cork and Bottle Liquor Store? Or the one about Leopold's Book Bar Cafe? CityCast ads are always heartfelt. That's one reason we just won Adweek's Podcast Innovator of the Year award. So if you're interested in getting your business or product in front of people who care about the city as much as we do, consider placing an ad with CityCast. It's not just our city, by the way. CityCast has dedicated local teams in 10 other cities, soon to be 12. So reach out at ads@citycast.fm. Yeah, and so, we talked about the Anabasque, which won the gold, and you mentioned earlier the Pecora, it's a Nocciola?
Nocciola.
Pecora Nocciola, which I tried for the first time this week, and it is so tasty.
Oh, God.
I was like, okay. I knew it won an award, but I didn't understand until I took that first bite. I would assume it's like almost similar to Parmesan. Like what's going on there with that award winner?
Yeah, so if you go to Italy and you get a pecorino, you could get any number of cheeses. Basically, a pecorino is just something that's made with sheep milk. Also, it's made in an Italian style, so it's a cooked pressed cheese, which is why it's a firmer texture. So it's going to have a similar texture to Parmesan. It's drier. You can grate it. You can shave it. However, you could still do a lot of different things with pecorino. So if you're in the grocery stores here, you're going to find a lot of pecorino romano, which is going to be much older, saltier, and sheepy. You're also going to find a lot of romanos that are made with cow milk, which is obviously not a pecorino.
You just made a face like that ain't right.
Well, there's a cheese for everybody. But ours is going to be a lot more subtle. Sheep milk has a really nice nutty flavor, and I feel like this cheese really highlights that flavor. And it's just super versatile, and I don't think I've ever met anyone who didn't like it. So whenever I have someone who's maybe a little nervous about trying sheep milk cheese for the first time, Bacora Nocciola is usually one I try to get in their mouth and get them to try it, because like I said, I don't think I've ever had anyone not enjoy it.
Yeah. I've also seen it described as bright. And I was curious, like, what does bright mean with cheese?
Yeah, cheese words in general it's like wine, and a lot of it, people get really worried about the words they're using. And sometimes I like words like bright, or words that are almost a little bit more personality driven than flavor driven, like the feeling you're getting when you eat that cheese. Like a Gruyere feels very comfortable and cozy and kind of wintry, and that's what I want to melt over like French onion soup in the wintertime. And pecorino and our pipit, they just have a lightness, a brightness. It's just a little bit lighter and brighter. It's not a heavy feeling. It's tricky to come up with the words. A lot of people default to like the word sharp, and usually they just mean like strong or flavorful. So when I talk to people at the market, it's fun to get from them what they're really looking for in a cheese. And usually it's as easy as saying, what are your favorite cheeses and what do you like to do with them? And then I can help guide them to one of ours that may be a great fit for them.
Right. Like, what do you want to pair it with, basically, also could be another consideration.
Yeah. Are you cooking with it? Are you taking it to a party? Do you want to have, crowd pleasers? Do you want something more adventurous? Do you want to kind of challenge people and take them out of their comfort zone a little bit? Or do you just want to have, a really nice night? And I love it, especially when people are cooking with it. Cheese boards are wonderful. And I love that people are just snacking on cheese and putting together great spreads for their friends and family. But just like they say, you should cook with good wine. I love it when people cook with really good cheese too, because it's more expensive, but you don't need as much. If you're not just looking for something to like melt and glue stuff together, if you're really looking to add flavor and texture, using really great cheeses in your dishes is a good way to go.
Yeah, and if you want people to feel bright and bold and sassy, yes. And so I'm curious, how do sheep milk cheeses compare to cow milk cheeses? Like, what's the difference there?
So one, I feel like it's kind of a misconception is first of all, people assume sheep and goat are going to be the same, and they're different. And then people kind of assume that all sheep milk cheeses are the same and all goat milk cheeses are the same. Whereas if you think about cow milk, you don't think that way at all. You think of cheddars and blue cheeses and mozzarellas. Those are all cow milk, and all those cheeses are wildly different. So if you decide that you don't like, a certain cheddar, you're not going to write off all the other cow milk cheeses. But people tend to do that with goat and sheep. They'll have one that they didn't care for, and they'll be like, oh, I just don't like goat cheese. I don't like sheep cheese. So I really try to, educate people and expand their minds a little bit to know that, all these cheeses are going to taste different. So we make anywhere from, 6 to 8 cheeses at a given time. And they all taste quite different because one is a washed rind, one is a natural rind, one is firm, one is very light and creamy and fresh. So goat has, people will often say like a Barney flavor. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all, because I really, really enjoy goat cheese. And when goat cheeses are well made, they're delicious. And sheep milk, the flavor is a little bit more like lanolin, kind of an aroma that people aren't super familiar with. And it's going to be stronger in some cheeses rather than others. Some it's very subtle. But I'd say that the dominating flavors in sheep milk are that it's just rich. I mean, all that fat, double the fat that's a lot more fat than other milks, but it makes for a really luxurious cheese. And a little bit sweet and a little bit nutty. If you ever have the chance to try fresh sheep milk, I mean, it's the best milk you'll ever drink. It would also cost like $15 a gallon because sheep milk is very expensive.
Well, now I've got something to add to my food bucket list.
In the future, we would love to do a little bit of bottling and maybe sell it like quarts as like coffee creamer, since it is so rich and delicious.
Wow. I love that. And, your feta also took home an award.
It did. We've been making feta for a long time, and it's a very classic cheese, so we never really thought about entering it. So we just started entering it this year, and it's done well. It's a traditional sheep milk feta. If you were to be in Greece legally, it would have to be at least 70% sheep milk to be called feta. You can't legally make cow milk feta in Greece. And the other 30% could be sheep or goat. So again, in the grocery stores here, you see mostly cow milk feta. And most of those fetas were made and packaged and sent to the store very quickly. We make ours and we brine it for 6 months, sometimes even a year. So it sits in a basically a container of a barrel with salt water, a brine, and aging. So the texture is getting creamier. It's absorbing salt and developing flavor.
Grilled cheeses. I heard about your grilled cheese, that you guys are a champion. What's your secret there?
Our secret is good cheese, good butter, good bread, and just keeping it really, really simple. So we're in Paoli. We have our aging space here, a little shop, and a very simple cafe where we literally just do grilled cheese sandwiches and occasionally a few other specials and some cheese boards, but I wouldn't even call it a restaurant. But we use Madison sourdough bread. We use our own butter, salted butter, and then we use just great cheese, mostly ours. We do have a classic cheddar as well, and sometimes we'll bring in some other Wisconsin cheeses for meltiness, but we'll add ours in for flavor. We'll do 1 or 2 cheeses on a sandwich, and then maybe an accompaniment like a little bit of jam or mustard, but that's really it. And we have a panini press, so it's super basic, but really, really delicious. You can get really fancy, but we don't.
It's simple, but packs a punch. I just visited Paoli and got the opportunity to check out the cafe, and man, it's really cute in there. And I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about butter, because you guys are like making your own butter, and not many creameries do anymore.
No.
So why is that, important to y'all?
Yeah, that is a brand new thing for us. So we are down at the end of Paoli, and then in the middle of town, 7 Acre Dairy Company just opened up, and we have partnered up with them. So they also have their hotel, restaurant, cafe. And when Nick, the owner, approached us, he really wanted to bring some sort of manufacturing or production back to that building, because it originally was a cheese plant. It made butter and it made Swiss cheese back from the 1880s through the mid-1900s, I believe. And so for a while we thought about, because we don't have our own plant, we actually rent space at a plant called Cedar Grove in Plain, Wisconsin. We make our cheese there, and we bring it to our building in Paoli to age out. So we've been trying to figure out a way to have our own plant for a while. So we toyed with the idea of actually putting in a full-on small-scale cheese plant over at 7 Acre. And with the historical restoration they were doing and the space they were allowed, it just would have been very cost prohibitive, and we wouldn't have gotten enough space. So we thought about other opportunities, and butter you can make on a much smaller footprint. So we have a very small 500 square foot space in there, but it's a fully licensed dairy plant. We call it a micro dairy. And in it, we have a small pasteurizer and we have a butter churn. So we bring in cream. We actually bring it in cans, kind of old school. So it's made very small batches. We make anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds at a time. That's it. And then we actually hand shape it. Figuring out how to package it was tricky, because what you get from the store, you actually get from it's called a butter printer. That's how they print those sticks and those blocks. So that makes that shape. And then another machine that wraps it, and another machine that labels it. And all those machines together are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So clearly we're not going to do that. We thought about a tub, but a tub is so basic. We kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. So we actually, after watching lots of videos and doing research, we kind of do it the way they do in France, where we have paddles and we actually hand shape it. So we take that soft butter out of the churn.
You use paddles?
We'll mix in the salt. Yeah, we're trying to get the temperature of the room right. So hopefully we'll have it right soon, because right now we're shaping it and wrapping it off site. But hopefully you'll be able to watch us do that at 7 Acre in the coming weeks. We do get everything tested, and then also butter by law has to be graded. So a licensed butter grader has to taste that butter and make sure it is grade AA or grade A.
Honestly, I'm just thinking about how do I get that job? Get the butter.
We're hiring. Yeah, you come on down, Bianca. We'll put you to work.
Okay, amazing. I mean, Paoli is just magical. I'm like, what's going on there? Why is this happening in Paoli?
Yeah, it's been a fun adventure bringing 7 Acre, and they're working with some farmers right down the road. We're working with a dairy farmer down the road, doing some great things, but it's getting a lot more attention, and we're excited that people are hearing about us.
Anna, thank you so much for your time and for all the heart you guys put into that food. I'm already better for it, and I know lots of people are very happy.
Thank you, Bianca. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
That's Anna Thomas Bates, co-owner of Landmark Creamery in Paoli. We'll toss a link to their site if you're keen to learn more. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with somebody who loved lamb chop growing up? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then,